Hi, today I'm joined with Luis Salazar Jurado, or Jurado, sorry. Um, so today's topic is about query augmentation versus AI query fan out, what the differences are, whether it's the same thing, why there's so much of a buzz nowadays about query fan out and stuff like that. So it's a pleasure to have you. And can you explain to start with what query augmentation is?
First, thank you for having me, and I really admire your effort in trying to pronounce my name. Regarding the query augmentation, for those who are seeing that they can expand more just searching on Google, and they can visit one of the first article that Bill Slawski wrote years ago about query augmentation. But in a nutshell is once Google relate to your brand or to your site a query, and then they are trying to identify related terms to that query, and when they trust you enough, they give you more and more terms to rank related to that core term because they trust you. That's a brief definition of query augmentation. But to get more terms to rank in your site, you need to get that trust. Later we can expand on that. But let's say a brief definition is you rank for more terms related to a specific terms. That could be a brief definition.
Yeah, and then what about query fan out? Is that any different or is that the same thing?
It's the same thing, just a fancy new term in the marketing, but the core is the same. It's just you're ranking for a term and you want to rank for related terms. That's basically, or you can listen in the marketing arena on the SEO podcast, different terms, which is query network. That's it. Query network, query augmentation is the same, or query fan out.
Yeah, so I want to kind of dive a bit deeper into it with regards to the semantic side of query augmentation, query networks versus query fan out within artificial intelligence. You say that with query augmentation that in time, if you're trusted, you can rank for more keywords and more key phrases that's relevant to the main keyword of what you've searched for. But how does that trust work? One, within Google, but then also, is that not the case for query fan out? Because query fan out, I don't believe, uses anything like PageRank or trust. So how does that differentiate from query fan out to query augmentation with the trust factors? Is query fan out just doing it for every single query that happens? Versus query augmentation, you need to build the trust, and that's when it does what people call query fan out.
Yes. Let's assume that you have a brand, first, and then related to that brand, there are related searches, and then you augment or expand the terms you rank about that brand. Okay. If Google do not trust you, if Google don't think you're a real brand, the algorithms are not going to give you more traffic or more users or more clicks unless you have a track record, which is historical data of user clicking in your site, searching for your brand, searching for a related term to your brand. For instance, we are right now launching a marketing strategy, let's say, from an online jewelry company. It's going to end up in 2 days, and then we're going to launch a new strategy. So from both SEO, pay-per-click, and email marketing, and on top of that, social media, we have created a campaign so potential customers are going to search brand plus the product we want them to search for them, because a new set of product is going to be launched and an old set of product are going to be, let's say, are obsolete, and we're going to get rid of them, and we're going to try to sell them. So in the marketing campaign, we are engaging the user to search brand plus the product we want to sell the most. So we are creating a brand search demand, historical data, and that data is going to be, let's say, stored or recorded by Google. For instance, if it is an online jewelry company, it's going to be brand plus earrings, brand plus ring, brand plus bracelet. But then we can expand. Brand plus bracelet for woman, brand plus bracelet, whatever else. That is query augmentation.
Yeah. So I've got a question on that. So when you're doing brand and then, let's say, earrings or bracelet or necklace and stuff like that, would you ever do it the other way around as well, where you're trying to do necklace plus brand or bracelet plus brand instead of brand earrings? You do it the other way around, earrings brand as well, and doing it that way to append. Because what I'm in an ideal world, if you could get the brand appended on auto suggest to someone searching for earrings, they wasn't even searching for your brand, and your brand now is showing up, as opposed to doing brand first. You do it both ways.
Yes, absolutely. That is tokenization, which means you put the brand in the middle, and before and after, you use related terms. As I mentioned previously, we can trigger queries by pay-per-click, SEO, email marketing, or social media. And in each vertical, we trigger different queries with different terms in order to maximize the probabilities to get the first attempt, then the click, and then again query augmentation. Because one thing is what you have in your head and what you're trying to trigger in the searches, but a different thing is how the user search. And if you get the both of them combined, it's a superpower.
Yeah, so then obviously on there, then obviously once you then start to build that trust, build the amount of branded kind of searches, then it will then expand with query augmentation for that same article to rank for a lot more variations and longer tail of keywords. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And in order to expand a little bit more, for that brand, we have between 700 and 1,000 clicks a day only on brand terms. So query augmentation would be, how can we expand brand plus the term we want to rank for a different product or for a different collection or a different category in the jewelry business. Let's say we're going to launch a new product. So we got new terms that are going to augment the pack of keywords or the pack of terms you rank for related to that brand.
Yeah, and then so within that, so let's say someone like myself who's nowhere near as advanced as you guys with Semantic SEO and core race framework and stuff like that, how do I try to augment and get the query fan out or query augmentation to try and cover all different attributes, predicates and facets to what the page is about? How can you try and expand on that? Does the content still need to be there on the page with H2s and H3s to be able to expand upon the main query?
Yes, absolutely. And then we're going to mention two technical terms in semantic SEO, which is statistical linguistic and distributional semantics, which in a nutshell means, imagine you want to rank for a new term, but your site is 100 pages, but the terms you want to rank for is only in one page. By pure mathematical terms, is one page out of 100 is a very limited number, and you're not gonna be strong enough to rank for that terms because the content you have for that term is so tiny compared with the whole site. However, let's say you have 20 pieces of content about different terms in that site of 100 URLs. You have 20% of the whole site about that term. So if you, by pure mathematical probability, it's more likely you rank for the term you have 20 pieces of content rather than one. This is a statistical linguistic. And then distributional semantics means the amount of attributes and predicates you have around the entity you want to rank for. Let's say you have only one piece of content and you have a specific information about that content. But the information is not distributed and related across the site. It's only in one page. So unless you trigger or target a very specific marketing campaign, a very specific terms with low competition, it's very unlikely you run, because you are going to be just one drop of water in an ocean of information. So you're not going to stand out from the crowd. Why Google would trust your site if, as a brand, you have a tiny amount of content for a term you want to rank for? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, on that though, does that matter on the percentages? So if it was 20 pages out of 100, you're saying there's 20 pieces of content, that's 20% of the site that's talking about one specific topic. What happens if I had 500 pages and I only had 20 pages of that, and now it's a much lower percentage? Does that matter? Does that like then start to say you like topic dilution, is what some people say?
Yes, you mentioned that the answer in the comment you did, which was you are diluting the power of the overall value of the site about a topic, so you demote automatically the overall value of the site about to rank for that term. So you have to find the right balance about the topic and then the subtopics, because if not, it's going to be really hard to rank. I mean, in the old system, keyword to document, you just put the keyword in the URL or in the page you want to rank for, and it was pretty easily decades ago. And step by step, it's becoming harder and harder. But now, just putting the keyword in the URL, the title, heading H1, so on and so forth, it's not going to move the needle as easily as in the past, because SEO have changed.
Yeah, you need to massively expand upon now what, I mean, for me, the old school methodology used to be easier for people like me, and now I'm having to geek out and try to understand more of expanding upon all the different topics of what should be being. I mean, it's the right way, in my opinion, of how Google are moving towards. It just means there's more work involved. But moving on to query fan out, right? So artificial intelligence, everyone, it's a big buzzword. Artificial intelligence, query fan out. Like, is this new then, or is there anything different with what the LLMs are doing to query augmentation, or is it just query networks and it's been around for a long time and just people just never understood it?
Yes, the core principles are the same. The only difference is that Google showed the results in a different interface. In this case, either AI overview. But how they organize the information is pretty much the same. So the only thing is you have to feed data. You have to feed a different bot. That's it. You have to communicate with in a different layer of information with a bot. I'm going to give you an example. We're working in a project, and we tested changing the image 4 times until we get that image in the AI overview, and then in the same let's say tests, we change only tiny section of the site in order to see how the extract of the information, the summary of the information change. Again, at the end of the day, you're only trying to feed a bot to answer a question. The key is just look at the SERPs, look how the data is extracted and summarized, and then try to structure the content that way, either with table, listicles, or any other structured way to feed that bot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with regards to then the content briefs of expanding upon the content of what you're on about there and changing the images to try and get it to show up in the LLMs, to try and make certain that people that are writing content, semantically they are trying to cover everything of what needs to be on to get all query augmentation and query fan out. If someone doesn't know how to do that, what would you say are the next steps for them? Like, could they reach out to yourself and you could do some sort of audit, or should they literally be, if they're not an SEO, but they want to obviously improve the ranking. Should they do Corey's kind of training? It just seems to be quite a long-winded, it's a difficult course to try and go into. Could they reach out to you for expanding on query augmentation? Is that something that you offer as a service?
Yes, absolutely. Preferably, I mean, to make it easier for the customer in this case, if they already have a brand with a decent amount of searches, at least, I would say to get a number, at least 200 to 300 searches per month is a good number. But the bigger the demand, the better, because that brand is going to be more consolidated. Then, after we get that general evaluation of what the project needs, is to get audit about how strong is that brand, what is the brand search demand, and then what do they want to rank for. Coming back to the comments we have a few minutes ago, is what the percentage of content already in the site or in the brand, because if the percentage is very tiny, it's going to be really hard to rank for those terms. We have to balance the content in proportion to the brand, and then define the right entities we want to rank for, and then investigate very heavily about the attributes about those entities, and then create the semantic content network accordingly in order to rank for those terms.
So with regards to the semantic content network, obviously that's like a topical map, but trying to define all the content briefs, where the internal linking is going to be, like fully mapping out. I always call it, it's like getting an architect. Before you build a house, you need that architect to design exactly where the windows and the doors are going to go strategically. You don't just go and get a builder to start building a house. You need the architect to design exactly how it's going to be built. And I think for somebody like myself, I just rush in and start building a wall, and I'm like, I could be building it in the wrong place, the wrong dimensions, and that semantic content network becomes key, especially now where we're talking about query augmentation, query fan out, semantically trying to cover everything. If someone's watching this and they want to reach out to somebody like yourself, or you've got like a newsletter and stuff like that, how can someone contact you with certain questions about query augmentation and query fan out?
They can find me on seotechnico.com, which is the official site. I also have a newsletter I write daily about semantic SEO. Then the domain is dailysemanticseo.com. They can contact me, subscribe first, and then they can contact me. Or even they can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name, Luis Salazar Jurado, and then they can check the profile.
So anyone who's watching this, I hope you like the video discussing query augmentation and query fan out. Query fan out is certainly a buzzword at present that's being used quite a lot within artificial intelligence groups. But actually, and what was bizarre for myself, I didn't even realize myself that query augmentation and query networks, this has been around for many years. If you want to reach out to Lewis, he's absolute legend in the semantic SEO kind of networks and community. We hope you like the video. If there's anything that you feel we've missed, leave a comment in the comment section. Is there anything we could expand on, or you want me to talk about with Luis with regards to query augmentation and query fan out?
Bye-bye.